What's up, everybody? Hey, so I just got home from the gym, and I'm literally just sitting in my garage right now. And I was at the gym. Every time I'm at the gym, I do sales training, or I'll listen to or read a book, depending on what I'm doing, whether I'm riding a bike or walking on an incline, or if I'm actually lifting, I'm listening to a book. I made a rule for myself about 4 years ago that I would not listen to music at the gym unless it was like productive to something that I was doing for work. So for example, I'll listen to music if I need to find a song for a video that we're shooting. But that's like the only time. Other than that, my rule is I have to listen to something that is helping me gain knowledge, to better further my skill set, to grow in my occupation and what I'm doing as a sales leader, as a personal salesman myself, or in personal development, or living according to true principles and just understanding how they work, right? So I'm doing my normal routine. I'm pushing myself hard at the gym, and that's where my best ideas come, I feel like. And I'm studying this, I'm trying to understand this idea of how your standards for yourself, what the interplay is between your standards for yourself, like your own personal standard of excellence, and your vision for the future, your beliefs about your own abilities, and about your beliefs about possibilities of success for oneself, and how that plays into being able to raise your standard of excellence. And this is a convoluted idea, but let me tell you what just clicked for me in my head, just it clicked more in my head than I've ever had before, because I've been trying to understand, how do you really raise your standard of excellence? Well, let me give you an example of how I had a low standard of excellence. So obviously I knock doors for a living, and I sell pest control door to door. And I started doing that when I got home from college. Got home from a mission where I served a mission for my church. Went to college. I needed to pay for school because I got cut from my football team, where I was playing football at the university I was going to. And then I had to find a way to pay for school because I didn't have a scholarship anymore. I was trying to take a bunch of credits, and so it was just, I had to pay for school. I found this job where I could do, door-to-door sales, summer sales, and I sell pest control. Obviously, that's why people are watching this, right? Because that's the audience I'm talking to, people that work with me. So when I started selling, I just had this fundamental belief that I was not a natural salesman. And the reason why I believed that is because I had experiences in my life that led me to, that I gave meaning to. And the meaning I assigned to those experiences was that, I'm kind of clumsy. I fumble over my words. I can't read very well in school, and so I don't understand or digest things very well. I'm not very quick on my feet because of that, and so therefore, because of that and many experiences that I've had, I'm not a natural salesman. And I felt like I could inherently feel that I was kind of boring in the way that I talked, so I would try to work on that over time, but I just felt that was who I was, right? And so that plus I didn't have a very clear vision for my future. So I got home from this mission, served this mission for my church, and I thought I was going to go into business, get into the business school, realized that I wasn't doing as much as I needed to in school. At the time, the belief that I had assigned to it was oh, I'm not cut out for business school. This is so competitive. How am I going to get into it? I can't read as well as everyone else. I have slight dyslexia and an impediment in my right eye that makes it so that I can't, it's just very hard for me to read quickly. And that also is a belief. I'm sure that I could learn how to do it fast, right? But at the time, that's what I was telling myself. And so I thought oh, I'm bad at school. I'm not ever getting into this program. As hard as I try, I can't get straight A's. And so I just didn't have a clear vision for my future, because my whole life I had said I want to go to business school. I'm going to go to International Business School of Thunderbird, and then after that I'm going to get an MBA at organizational behavior or organizational leadership, and then I'm going to do whatever, become an executive at a big company, start my own, just kill it, right? And all of those dreams just shattered when I realized that now I didn't have a scholarship, because my dream was to play football in college as well as do all those other things. And so I had to go do this summer job, and I did it because I wanted to become the best version of myself. That's why I ended up with Moxie. That's why I ended up where I was. But all of my vision for the future was clouded. My beliefs about my own abilities. I had experiences that summer where I had to set high goals for myself, but then I didn't achieve them. And so then I started to believe, well, I don't have big sales days. And so, I'm consistent. I work really hard. That's one thing nobody can beat me at, is my work ethic. So I assigned that belief to myself, right? That like, I will be the guy in the office. I don't care how good I am. In fact, I throttled my own capabilities because I would tell myself that I wasn't as good as everybody else. And so therefore I had to outwork everybody, but I will be the hardest working person in the office. And so they'd have to kick me out of the office at night doing sales training. And so I would do this sales training. I would try to get better and better, but I didn't really have the skill set I think that I quite needed to become who I wanted to be. But I was also limited by my own beliefs about myself, and my vision for the future clouded, right? And I had this standard. I'd grown up in a household where, like, if you made six figures, if I was able to make six figures in college, man, I would be killing it. If I was able to make $50,000 or even $30,000 in a summer job, for freaking killing it, right? And so as soon as I would get to this threshold of like, oh yeah, you're making, good money for a college kid, then like that was my standard, because it was this mixture of vision for the future, beliefs about myself and my past, skill set, like lacking in a skill set, or like and not searching out a greater skill set because of the vision and the beliefs issue, right? And then having a difficulty of controlling my emotions from door to door and from situation to situation, because I hadn't really gotten good at that. And I always joked that my first summer just exposed all my weaknesses all over again. That's when I was a missionary. I used to joke about that all the time, especially as I started training other missionaries. I would be like, hey, listen, this thing where you have to learn this new language and where it's just like the hardest thing you've ever done, it's going to expose all of your weaknesses. It'll just lay them out on the table. It's like somebody, this is going to be a little graphic, but it's like somebody just cut you open and just like all your guts are there, and you just get to see what's wrong with you inside. It's some version of like the spiritual or mental or emotional like version of that, where you're just like, hey, you have no choice but to show who you really are and how you handle these really hard situations. I felt like that when I chose to do this really hard thing of going and knocking doors in the summer. But I didn't have a choice but to keep doing it, because I'm going to conquer this. I want to get better. And the money was enough for me to want to keep coming back. And mostly I became addicted to who I became as a person. So as I started going on, but I found that I started developing these habits that were tied to beliefs about myself, that were tied to this kind of somewhat clouded vision for the future, and that played into my standards. So what am I getting at in this video here? It's how do you raise your own personal standards? And I'm going to give you an example. So how these standards manifested themselves even later on in my selling career, because I've been doing this now this is going on 8 years. And it started manifesting, and I've done really well with it. I mean, if for people my age, you compare what I've done, it's to my friends who are doing other things, it's like head and shoulders above. I feel like I'm very blessed, and the people that work with me are as well. You guys that are watching this, that work with me, it's like it's a blessing to be able to be in a vehicle that allows you to not only grow as a person in the way that this does, but also have the income and provide for yourself and your family and the people you want to love and serve in this way. And so I was very content with that, right? But I started to develop a stronger vision for myself for the future. Actually, sorry, let me go back, because I need to give you an example of how my standards were lower than they needed to be, than they should have been. So because I was lacking in skill set of achieving at a very, very high level. I mean, I was doing well. I was like probably top 1-2% in the industry. But I wanted to be able to just outright, just like no question, be like the best. Not only the best in like in ability to personally sell, but also the best in the ability to personally train, have such a complete understanding of the psychology of sales, everything about it, everything about persuasion and influence and human development and character development and living according to true principles. That's like what I am aspiring to now, is like I want to become that type of person that like understands that so well, tries his best to live it in such a way that it's really influential and impactful, as much as you would fall short every day, but that you're able to teach it in a way that's also impactful and powerful as well. So, but before I kind of like started to have that really clear vision, and I was lacking in a skill set to be able to do that, I would start making up these beliefs for myself that like, oh, I don't really have big sales days. I sell 4 accounts a day. I knock doors all day. I'll work harder than everybody else, but I'll sell 4 to 5 accounts a day, sometimes more, rarely less. But that gives me a big summer at the end of the day because I'm more consistent than everybody else. And all those accounts that I sell, they all get serviced. I get paid on them all. And that's how I am the best at what I do in leading and managing teams, is I'm really good at being consistent. And so therefore, because I am not the most skilled, I can then teach people who are not the most skilled and help them get to like that decently high level. But I found that as I started working with high performers, I was lacking in my ability to provide them value in a way that would help them go from being really, really good, like I was, to like I had attained a level of being through that consistency, to just absolutely being the best, like best in class in their field. And so my standard was like 4 or 5 a day. So what would happen as I would start to get to 4 or 5 accounts a day, and I had the skill set to do so, I would start getting really comfortable. So I work with a coach who we talk a lot about neuropsychology and what's happening in the brain as you get complacent in performance type things like sales, right? And that's what happens with your standard, is because I knew that selling 4 accounts a day and teaching people how to do the same, which is actually really good if you can do that consistently in my industry. If someone can sell 4 accounts a day, you easily make $100,000 in 4 months, no matter what, right? And so I just was like content with that. And so I would get personally to sell that 3rd or 4th account, and just those chemicals start to get released in the brain where you just start to feel a little bit, not apathy, but comfort, some complacency, satisfaction that like you've accomplished something good. And so therefore, you know how that manifested itself? I hated knocking doors after dark, hated it. And so I would always tell people, hey, you need to knock after dark. For sure, we knock till dark, but like if you want to get more sales, knock after, right? But I myself would get so comfortable at that standard of 4 accounts a day, and I would usually hit it almost every day. That if I was like at 4 accounts and it was like almost dark, I would just start meandering back to my car, maybe knock a couple of doors here and there, but not like with the fire where like no matter what you knock that door, you're going to get a sale. And so that was my standard though, right? And it manifested itself, and I hated knocking doors after dark because I rarely would need to in order to reach that standard. Now, something shifted in the last couple of years where I just started to say to myself, like, Hayden, if I could have anything that I want, Hayden, if you could have anything you want, I'm like I hate when people do that. They talk to themselves in 3rd person. I just started saying to myself, if I could have anything that I want, what would it be? I started just dreaming about like performance and like working with high performers and taking somebody who's like widely considered maybe among the world as a nobody and helping them become someone truly great in the world, but also great in character, right? And I also had these dreams of like taking people who are just incredibly skilled and talented, but who had been told their whole lives that they were just only really good enough to be sitting behind a desk at a hospital, taking calls for the emergencies coming in and assigning people, or someone who was like maybe going to go get a nice professional job, but capped at 6 figures a year, and that was comfortable. That was good. I started to have dreams of taking those types of people and turning them into just these ultra high performers that were not only really high performers, but they've just like this level of goodness about them that would allow them to love and serve and bless people in ways that they never would have been able to otherwise without it. So as I started to increase that vision for what I wanted, I started to say to myself, Hayden, that vision, you, the guy right now sitting in the chair, I haven't even got out of the car because it's just this stream of thought that I kind of want to get out. You sitting in the chair, Hayden, you're not achieving that. You're not the guy that's going to go do what you just said with those types of people. Why? Because you don't have the skill set yet. You certainly don't believe in yourself enough. And at the same time, you're starting to get this really clear vision, but how bad do you really want that? And what's the alternative? If you continue where you are now, you're not getting that. And so, Hayden, what do you have left to do? You need to be able to up your skills. You need to be able to up your standards for yourself if that's what you want. Because if that's the promised land, the current you right now is not the one taking those people to the promised land. And so I took a hard look at myself in the mirror and I said, I am going to start a journey in which I am unwilling to accept that who I was in the past is who I will be in the future. unwilling to accept that. And so therefore I started to say to myself, like, what would that guy be like? The guy that's taking top performers and making them best in their field, so sought after that his biggest problem is that they're just getting, like, not recruited away, but there's attempts to recruit them away that are so grand because they're just so sought after in their field, but they're so bought into the cause that we have of being the best versions of themselves and helping people do that. And they know that that's where they get that value, that, like, I have this bond with them where we're going and truly doing good things for the world, right? And helping these young guys and girls become leaders and truly bless people with not only their skills, but their goodness. So I took that hard look at myself and I said, if I'm going to be that person, I need to change and I need to up. I just need to get better at everything. So I started just to dissect, like, what would the guy that's leading that's causing that sort of effect, what kind of skills would he have? Who would he know and associate with? What would his daily routine look like? Like, what would his meetings look like? What would his personal skills training look like? And I just kind of tried to rewrite myself from the ground up, from a first principles perspective, like Elon Musk talks about. You know, it's not about making the current battery better. It's like looking at what a battery should do and building it from the ground up. And that's kind of what I did for myself. Is I said, like, every year I've made myself incrementally better. And that's been good. You certainly win if you do that. But what if I just reworked my vision and said, what do I really want? And then just built myself from the ground up and said, okay, well, what would that person do? What would he have? What would he be like? What type of person? What would his relationships be like? What would his own personal sales skill set be? And I rewrote all of my scripts. Some of them ended up being similar to what I'd done before. Some of them completely different. I started to seek out mentors with people that are actually, like, really good at what they do and even somewhat famous, and link arms with them. Somehow that happened. And then did a test group after I kind of reworked and rebuilt this stuff. And I went back on the doors myself because I'd been managing off of the doors for a couple of years. I went back on the doors myself and doubled my best hour for hour, day to day ever. I did more production than I had ever done previously in half the time personally, while managing 150 people. And everybody that applied to the things that I was kind of now training upon newly because I had done them for myself, they all at a minimum doubled their best summer productions ever, and had multiple people 5x, 6x, 7x their best production ever. And that's not to mention who they became as people and the types and like what the program did for them in the sense of their character, which I care more about than even the production. The production is just like the light on the hill that you can shine and say, like, hey, we're doing something really cool here. And how we do everything is how we do anything. How we do this thing is how we do everything. And we more so care about who we are as people and the goodness that we're shining. Anyway, but my point being here is, like, something clicked for me at the gym today. As I was thinking about how do you raise your own standards? Because remember, I hated knocking after dark. But this last summer, I knocked after dark every single day because I was trying to get at least 1 to 2 more sales after dark. Why? Because my vision for the future was so strong. And I actually had the confidence in my own skill set now. I had this utter confidence that if I just tried, that the skills would give me the results. And because the vision was so compelling, that allowed me to just work my freaking butt off in order to do it and to do things that I was not normally doing before, like knocking after dark, right? What clicked in my head today, though, was I've just been playing with this idea of, like, how do you, like, logistically, like, what's the function of being able to raise someone's standards? If the output is someone's standards is now raised for themselves, what are the variables that go into that? And I thought, well, maybe it's raise your vision for the future. But I started to think, like, well, no, that can't be only it, because if I have a low standard for myself and I always talk about achieving great things, but then I never actually put in the work, well, why? Why wouldn't you do that? People do that all the time, right? People have low standards for themselves. Jordan Belfort says people have a champagne vision and beer standards, right? They have this glorious vision, but these crap beer standards. And the one that I've been using for myself, because I don't drink, is, and I've talked with JB about this a little bit, but is people have a gourmet vision, fast food standards, right? Sometimes it's flipped, but most of the time it's gourmet vision, fast food standards. Well, why is that? It's because they lack one thing. It's the skills. And skills, if you can up your skills, you know cognitively, like you can intuitively say to yourself, like, oh, that makes sense. If I can learn that skill set, it's going to help me achieve that vision. So if you don't have the skills, the vision is just abstract. It's not real. But I'm telling you, when you gain a skill set that is so powerful and you're in a vehicle that allows you to achieve that vision now becomes real. And so like my powerful vision for my future now became real because I had reworked my own skill set, and something clicked in my head where I was like, oh crap, I can control my day. No longer am I just walking around on the streets hoping that I get sales because of my work ethic, which is kind of how I felt before. Now I know if I can just get someone to a certain level when I talk to them, I'm closing them no matter what. No matter what, I'm closing them every single time. And so the missing factor is, well, first of all, you have to have a compelling vision. But as you build a skill set that is congruent with achieving that vision, that allows you to achieve that vision, something clicks to where your beliefs easily are able to be raised, and you can eliminate limiting beliefs pretty easily there. And then it's like this flywheel that just feeds off of itself. So you up your skills, your vision becomes more real, you become emboldened in that vision. Now you can raise your level of belief, and your standard at the same time raises. So you can then say to yourself, I am not willing to accept less than this because I know I can achieve that. Now think about that. If you had a loved one and you just knew how talented they were, if you had a loved one that you knew was just so talented that not only could they have a freaking amazing marriage, like just such a good person, right? Amazing marriage, but they could also make $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 a year. They were just talented enough to do that. If you had a friend, a loved one that you knew could do that, but they were making $50,000 a year and they had a crap marriage, like how would you talk to that person? Right? You just like think about how you would treat them. And I think that it would have to do with something along the lines of like having this conversation to where you could realize like, hey, you're better than that. And if you can gain the skill set and understand how to do it, then it empowers you, it emboldens you, and it becomes worth it because now the vision is real. And so really, that's what I've been thinking about as I've been studying all this stuff even more and just trying to even increase my own skill set even more day after day after day after day, never stopping, right? Because like someone's always behind you trying to do the same thing. And so if you can exponentially get better all the time and just keep adding on to that skill set, then you become really powerful. And so that's kind of what really clicked for me today. And now I'm rambling a little bit, so I'm gonna end now, I promise you. But that's really what clicked for me today is like, the flywheel of the inner game of success, much of it hinges upon the skill set that allows you to achieve that success and that gives you the confidence that you can achieve a vision, that if you raise your level of belief that you're not spinning your wheels, and that therefore you can raise your standards to not accept anything less than excellence for yourself and what you're truly capable of. So I'm going to do some more videos to talk about actual strategy to how to actually apply this, but this one's a little bit more theoretical. Thanks for bearing with me, guys. Yeah, what's your own standard for yourself? Go figure that out, right? And then realize, how do you raise that standard? Gain a compelling vision for yourself, up your skill set every single day, apply the things that I'm teaching, that we teach all the time here, and really, you will see results so astounding that it will just embolden you and give you confidence. And as you apply it in things that matter most in your life, like being a good husband, being a good father, being a good friend, loving and serving those around you, you'll have so much joy that it'll just spill over into really giving you like this happy, amazing, fulfilled life. I found that for myself for sure. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Hope you have a great night. We'll talk to you soon.